Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of Brilliant But Lazy. I'm Alan.
I'm Josh. What's up, buddy?
Chaos. Just pure chaos. I'm in the process of moving, so I don't have my lights up. I look like a schlemiel. Like, it's just craziness on my end. How are you?
Yeah, it's not as chaotic, but I almost missed the movie that we watched today because yeah, all of these books behind me are I've gone through the same bindery for years, and I've been working on my next order just like leisurely over the summer. And this week I found out two things. One, the guy that I've been working with for years no longer works there. And two, come Saturday, the prices of each individual book are going to more than double. So I learned that yesterday. So I have until 4 p.m. tomorrow to drop off the books at this bindery that's like 2 hours outside of town. Otherwise, it's going to be so ridiculous I just couldn't afford it. So my order was just going crazy working on this order last night, and then you messaged me and I was like, wait, what are we supposed to see this week? I hadn't even bought tickets for it, so thank you for the reminder.
It's what I'm here for. Yeah, I haven't had anything that crazy. Well, I have, but just move stuff, just all moving. My brother decided to move the same weekend as me, so I got to help him move, and I got to move my stuff and get my keys.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So this will be the last Brilliant But Lazy I do from this setup. I'll have a whole new setup going forward, which I'm excited for. But
yeah, I'm taking it all in.
Yeah. But let's. So today we're going to be talking about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. But before we get into that, we wanted to talk about some other stuff in pop culture that has happened, because there's not usually a lot of news for us to cover before we get started, but there's some things that broke this week that I wanted to talk about. The first of which is we have a new Superman and Lois Lane.
Yeah.
We have I have their names here. It's David Corenswet and Rachel Brosnahan as Clark Kent and Lois Lane. I don't know him at all, but I watched all of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and I think Rachel Brosnahan is a fantastic choice for Lois Lane.
Yeah, I have seen David Corenswet. It sounds like we're pronouncing that wrong, but until somebody corrects us, I've seen him in Pearl and The Politician, but not enough to be like, I remember that performance. I just know he was in those. Yeah. So he definitely looks like a younger Henry Cavill, and if that's what they were shooting for, then they got that for sure. Oh yeah. I recognize Rachel from. I have not seen The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and I've heard it's amazing. But I do recognize her from House of Cards and a couple other things that she's done. So yeah, I mean, I think some of the best superhero castings that we've ever had were when they were slightly or unrecognizable, not huge names already stepping into a role. So I think this has the potential to be really interesting.
Yeah. As far as the Lois Lane side of things go, there's a lot of characteristics from The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel that I can see her bringing into Lois Lane, and that's what I like in a Lois Lane, like feisty, fearless. I can see her really going for that. And with the level of comedy that she had to do in that show, like having her do a James Gunn script, which I'm sure is going to have a bit of comedy in it, like, let's be honest here. I'm really excited to see what they do with that character, and there goes my book.
It's a heavy book.
It's a heavy book. It's all my Indiana Jones stuff is packed away. I have all 3 screenplays from the original trilogy, but they're all packed away. So yeah, I'm excited for this. With the list of names going out, the only one that I was really rooting for was her for Lois Lane. So
yeah, she definitely fits that bill. I did see several names going out for Kent, and by the way, they were releasing these names in pairs, as in they had gone past the point of just figuring out casting, but also casting like packages, Kent and Lane, not just individual. So
yeah.
I kind of feel bad for anybody that was packaged with somebody that was clearly not going to make the other role. And one of those being X-Men Beast guy.
Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult. I like him. I like him a lot. I like a lot of the things that he's in. But I did not feel like he was right for this role at all.
There are rumors that he's still in contention for Lex Luthor. So...
Yeah, but I've also heard rumors of Skarsgård's battling it out. So who knows? I mean, Nicholas Hoult, I feel for him because I feel like he does get typecasted into a lot of the same roles. You know, the Renfields and the Warm Bodies, and I think he also did the Jack and the Beanstalk thing, and you know, they all kind of seem to be similar roles.
Yeah.
But I do like him. I do like him, you know. And then every once in a while he'll play something else that doesn't catch on. Like I think he did one about J.R.R. Tolkien, which I think they wanted it to be bigger than it was. And he did an Angelina Jolie movie, and I like him a lot. I just didn't feel like he was, you know, unless we were looking for young, scrawny, emo Superman, I just didn't think he would fit the pick.
Yeah. And you have the baggage of the X-Men stuff with him too. So,
yeah.
Speaking of, while we're on the topic of Superman and Lex Luthor, have you been watching Superman and Lois?
Yes, but I'm behind on the current season. I think I've only seen the first 2 episodes.
Okay, I want to talk about the finale quick. I'm not going to get into spoilers.
Oh, it's already the finale.
The season is over.
Okay.
My wife watched the part of the finale with me, and we were both like, why does this look better than The Flash did? Like the CGI was fantastic. The finale was strong. I kind of wish it was the series finale because it ended so strongly that I didn't think the show was going to get picked up, and I kind of wish it didn't. Because have you heard the news about this show?
I have not. Fill me in.
Okay.
I all I've seen is a clip, and I've seen who plays Luthor, but that's it.
So CW got sold to a new owner, Nexstar Media.
That.
So they're focusing more on bringing in foreign projects and just paying the royalties on that and not starting new productions. So I really thought Superman and Lois was going to get canceled this season, but they picked it up for another season. But in doing so, they have cut 2/3 of the cast from the show. The only people returning have the last name Kent. So Clark Kent, Lois Lane, Jordan, and Jonathan Kent. Everyone else.
None of the townfolk?
None of the townfolk.
Are they moving out of Smallville?
I don't know. And the finale doesn't give you any answers.
Whoa, that's a big cut.
It's a huge cut, and I'm wondering if they're going to return, but not as series regulars, but as recurring. Yeah. But if you do that, you're going to have a lot of people just quit the show because it's probably not worth your time to be living in Vancouver.
Sure. Well, I have not. I'm so behind, so I don't know where relationships are. I've just seen a couple clips here and there. A few more people learn who Clark Kent is this season, and I was kind of disappointed that I saw that clip, but that's interesting. How is I would ask, this can't be too spoilery, how's the replacement brother actor?
He's very good. It's a seamless transition. Like, they don't acknowledge it at all. He's very good in the role, as much as that character has anything to do. Sure. They give him an actual arc this season that isn't cringe. I wasn't a huge fan of his season 2 arc because it felt like an extended episode of Smallville, but he he's got a good arc this season. He's done a very good job replacing the previous actor, and the chemistry is still there between the brothers, which is nice. So,
well, I've seen Smallville trending a lot, and I've seen a lot of pretty much every other like Superman actor has been trending randomly this week with all the Superman casting news. Like Dean Cain was trending, and I'm like, what did he say now? But no, he was trending for Superman stuff. But yeah, so it's been interesting to see kind of people bring up past Superman actors, and then I have seen Smallville be like, you know, a Superman story started the CW superhero verse, and now it's ending the CW superhero verse. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm enjoying Superman and Lois. The final scenes of the finale though were very entertaining to watch.
Okay,
and that's
I'll have to
all
binge
I will
it.
say. Yeah,
maybe I'll
it's
binge
worth
it
the
this
binge.
Weekend. Yeah.
Or just wait for it to be on HBO Max so you don't have to worry about commercials.
That's
I'm
true.
sorry, Max.
Just
Drop
Max.
the HBO. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to acknowledge that the CG in the final scenes of Superman and Lois this season were better than anything we saw in The Flash.
That's not good.
It's not good.
It's high praise for the show, though.
It is, because they have the max budget.
Yeah.
Switching from DC to Marvel, 2 episodes of Secret Invasion have dropped. We're going to do a full season review once the whole show is out, but I figured why not touch base and see how you're feeling about it so far.
Are we confirmed how long this season is?
I think I can look.
I heard it was 6.
Possibly.
That seems really short.
It is 6 episodes, yeah.
Okay, so we're already 1/3 through the show. I'm bored, man. I'm not gonna lie, I'm bored. I thought, yeah, stuff is happening, but it's just so, I knew it was gonna be nothing like the comic, and I read the comic so long ago, I can't even remember what the comic is anymore. And then there were so many offshoots that I never read, so I knew not to expect that. But it's just like, it's just not, grabbing me. After the first episode, I was hoping it was going to be an Andor situation, to where it's kind of a slow burn. But then the second episode didn't really pick up either. And the things that do drop, I'm just like, I'm not, oh snap, that's interesting. I'm more like, oh okay, that's what they're doing. I'm not pulled in yet.
Part of me wonders if I think I'm more into it than you are. I think this is the show that made Kevin Feige go, maybe we should just start making more, like, focus more on the movies instead of just the series. Because there's, like, when they were in production of this, that's when they're like, oh yeah, Armor Wars is going to be a movie now. So.
Oh right, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm fine with it. It's got that slow burn of a thriller. I just need something more to pull me in, because I'm not really.
I don't really care for the villain. I feel like he's just blah to me right now. Emilia Clarke is interesting as always.
Yeah.
I like Olivia Colman's character.
She's probably the best part of the show so far for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to like it. I'm excited. I'm excited to see where it goes from here. It just bothers me that he's not wearing the eye patch.
There's so much about Fury that bothers me. He just seems weak in this show. He seems weak and out of touch. Like, he learns things in these first 2 episodes that are so, like, groundbreaking for his character, that I'm just like, how are you so out of the know now? Like, for a while it was him and Talos, just kind of knowing everything about the Skrulls, and now we find out that Talos has kind of not been telling him everything about the Skrulls, and there's a lot more on the planet than Fury knew, and just kind of like, and everybody, including Maria Hill, is doubting Fury, and like, you've been on vacation for so long, and it's just, it just doesn't feel like the same Fury that we saw like in Civil War or Winter Soldier or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like something has happened that we don't know yet that changed him. Because
Yeah,
I feel like the show's kind of trying to, like, the scene with Maria Hill's trying to make you think that it was Tony Stark's death that made him change, but I feel like something else happened.
Yeah.
But we'll get deep into all of this when we review this at the beginning of August, because I think it lines up perfectly to end just for our first August episode. Yeah, July 26th. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I will say this: at least they're full-length episodes, because
yeah,
I think I would be that much more irritated if they were some of those short, under 30-minute bullshit things that we were getting with some other MCU shows. So at least there's that. I'm waiting for the ooh, pull you in moment, and I just haven't been pulled in yet.
Because this will be, we're getting this show, then we get Loki and Echo, but everything else is being held off until next year.
Oh gosh,
So-
those Marvel delays were brutal. I mean, I think we guessed that they were always going to get delayed, but the most recent set of announcements are just like, ugh.
Yeah. And I think Disney has just known that this was going to happen. It's just going to get worse because it looks like the Actors Guild is probably going on strike next. So
Yeah, it does.
get their money. Like, go for it. Yeah. So yeah, with that, let's get into today's main topic: Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Josh, what's your history with the Indiana Jones films, real briefly?
You know, I always enjoyed them. I think we had one or two of them. I think we had 1 and 3 on VHS growing up. I was never really allowed to watch 2. I watched it later and was like, oh, that's cool. This is definitely a darker tone than the normal. I've always appreciated him. I always kind of liked being the one kid that knew that the Rescuers Down Under, the connection with that, and Indiana Jones and what was Tom Selleck's show at the time?
Magnum PI.
Magnum PI, yeah. So the Rescuers Down Under are, you know,
Chippendale Rescue Rangers.
Chippendale.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. They have the Indy and Magnum outfits, and I remember learning that at a young age and thinking that I was the coolest kid on the block for knowing that movie trivia.
It's still cool trivia. So
yeah. So and you know, I was anxious to see the new one when Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, and I, like many, was disappointed by it, but appreciated parts of it. And so when this was announced, I was intrigued, to say the least. But Indiana Jones was never like a huge like cornerstone of my movie life growing up. I was always I prefer Star Wars over Harrison Ford's other franchise.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you there with Star Wars, but something about most of the Indiana Jones films has really stuck with me. I love the music. I love the character of Indiana Jones because it's so action heavy, but also lighthearted. Like, there's so much humor sprinkled throughout these. There are some of my favorite Steven Spielberg films. And then you have the John Williams score on top of that. And I too was disappointed about number 4 when it came out. But I got to see it in a triple feature with Iron Man and Horton Hears a Who. But Iron Man and Indiana Jones in one sitting was really cool. But yeah.
Was that the first time?
The first time I
That
saw...
you saw it? That you saw Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? Was that triple feature? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Yeah, at a local drive-in. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
I think the history of Indiana Jones is really interesting. I was doing kind of some deep dives into the previous films leading up to this, and some of the most interesting stuff is around, you know, Temple of Doom and how much they got away with. And I could only imagine the palms that were greased by Spielberg to keep that from being a PG-13 film. And I mean, because just going back and watching it, it's still brutal.
Well, that's the reason we have
shocked.
PG-13 is because of that film. Before that, it was PG and R. So,
Yeah. But it should have been PG-13. It definitely should have. Yeah.
And that's
or,
why
or just not PG. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Red Dawn was the first one to get that, or to release with it. Yeah.
So, that being said, we both saw this opening night. We were recording this opening night. So, we don't know what the world thinks of Indiana Jones. We don't know what the box office returns are going to be.
Yeah.
I will say this. I absolutely love this movie. I was iffy going into it. It's like, I don't know. Like, I think if they're doing what I think they're going to do, I don't know if I'm going to like it. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I think Harrison Ford is great in this. I think the CG is fantastic in spots where they rely on it for story reasons, which we'll get into. There's a lot of fun callbacks to the franchise, but it didn't feel very fan servicey to me. And there are just moments in this that made me happy to see on the screen that you get from an Indiana Jones movie, like the map travel. I really enjoyed this. What did you think of Indiana Jones, the Dial of Destiny?
I did not really care for the trailers, and my guesses of what the film would be based on the title and the stuff that they were, teasing in the trailers, I did not really feel like it would work. The first third of this movie, I think I was kind of like, okay, it's not terrible. I was waiting for it to suck, and honestly, I came out of it very pleasantly surprised. I think the age-old rule of the best Indiana Jones movies have Nazis in them continues with this. I think I there were things that I thought were like, that's not very polished, and some other things. But for the most part, I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was, even with the topic at hand, I thought it felt a lot more grounded than 4 did. I thought it felt more like an indie film with the relics and just the drive of the film. If this is the last indie story, I feel like it's a solid ender to the franchise. I liked where the characters go and how it kind of wraps things up and how it touches on previous things in the series. And I felt like it was a quality, well-made movie.
Yeah. So this is the first Indiana Jones film not directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
Were there any moments that made you feel like, oh yeah, this isn't a Spielberg movie? Is there anything that made you think that? For me, this kind of felt like the originals. Like, it felt like Spielberg made this movie, even though he was only a producer on it.
Yeah, I mean, I am sure Spielberg had a lot of not micromanaging, but a lot of, suggestions.
Influence.
I didn't feel like, influence. I didn't feel like any of the direction felt out of place. I thought even from the get-go with the just the font of the opening title and everything, it felt very nostalgic. It felt very in line with the previous movies. There was a lot of, you can't have an Indiana Jones without a Wilhelm scream. And so when that popped up, I was like, there it is. You can't have Indiana Jones on a plane without a TIE fighter sound. And when that popped up, I was like, there it is. And honestly, there was a point in the middle of the film that I was like, wait, I don't think Spielberg directed this. Who directed this? And I didn't remember until the credits came up. And that's right, Mangold directed it.
Yeah.
And I think, to his credit, Mangold knows how to make something fit. He definitely did that with Logan. Logan felt different than previous entries of X-Men, while at the same time fitting with previous entries of X-Men. So I think he did his job here. This did not feel like somebody else's version. It also didn't feel like a J.J. Abrams passion project to Spielberg, like Super 8 did. It just felt like it fit, you know?
Yeah. The one thing I will say that I was a bit disappointed in is we got the Paramount Mountain at the beginning, but we didn't get the transition from the mountain to a mountain. It was the Lucasfilm logo this time that transitioned to a handle, which was interesting. I'm like, I know I just saw this today, but I think this is my second favorite thing that Lucasfilm has done since Disney bought them, like movie wise.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the other one? What's the first one?
Rise of Skywalker. No. Rogue One. I think this is right up there with Rogue One.
I was hoping you'd say that.
I think the key to it is Mads Mikkelsen. Like, I think he did a great job as the villain.
He does uplift everything he's in, for sure. And speaking of, I thought he was great in this role. I liked who he was. I liked his drive. I thought he was a villain that Harrison Ford could understand, like Indy could understand, because they were both kind of very similar, just on opposite sides. And I liked him a lot. I thought the blonde guy from Logan.
I keep blanking on his name too.
His name is, I'm looking him up. His name is Boyd Holbrook.
Yes.
I like him. He's a good actor. He's been in a lot of great roles, small roles, bigger roles. I feel bad for him still for The Predator because that was a shitty movie, but he's a good actor.
Yeah.
I don't know that he needed to be in this. I just feel like his role could have been another nameless henchman, but they just wanted another person in there with more lines.
I feel like they just wanted somebody who was trigger happy, and he definitely was.
Yeah.
And I get that you need the henchman for the big bad. I didn't think you needed a Luther from the Umbrella Academy to be the other one. Like, the size of that guy compared to everyone was a little...
The dude was big. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my only, it's not a spoiler, but we'll get into that for spoiler talk because it's a little more specific.
Okay. How did you feel about Phoebe Waller-Bridge?
I liked her. I was worried about what her character was gonna be. She's great. She's a great writer as much as she is an actor. My first, I don't know if this was her first project or just the first thing that I saw her in, but was Crashing and Fleabag. Crashing was not her project. I don't know if she was involved in the writing, but I know she was in that show. But then Fleabag was her project, and that was just so damn good. Like, I really liked Fleabag. It was just very abrupt comedy, and I liked it a lot. But then I found out that she wasn't just acting in that show, she was also writing it. And then the fact that she was not just involved in that, she was involved in writing other things like No Time to Die and action things and dramas, and I have just had this in my later years, I've become more and more fascinated with drama, action, and horror movies that are written by comedians, and she fits in with that group to where I think she's just as talented as a writer as she is as a actor. And I don't know if she was just an actor for this movie or not, but I did like her on screen.
She's not credited as a writer, but I'm sure she had some input into the character as they went along. Yeah, I haven't seen Fleabag yet, and when you said Crashing, I was like, the Pete Holmes show? Like, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
No, it's a different Crashing.
I thought she was in that because I saw that listed, and I thought she was his ex.
No, there's another show called Crashing, a comedy series about the lives of 6 20 to 30 somethings living together as property guardians of a large disused hospital.
Well, I have not seen that Crashing. I could have swore she was his ex in the Pete Holmes show, but I'm misremembering that. So nope, my bad.
Yeah.
Well, then I can't recommend Crashing.
Pete Holmes Crashing we will both recommend, but
yes, that is a great show. But it's been so long since I've seen it that I was just like, she must have been that person. Okay. What do you think of her in the movie and in general?
I think I didn't like her for most of it, and I wasn't supposed to like her for most of it. Like there's a journey that this character takes that we'll get into in spoilers. That doesn't make her that she's unlikable. I think on purpose for most of it.
Yeah,
and I think the chemistry between her and Harrison Ford is decent, but the whole time I'm like, did they want Daisy Ridley? Like, did they ask Daisy Ridley to do this, and then she said no, so they went with Phoebe Waller-Bridge instead?
I doubt it, because there's the whole thing of Daisy Ridley can't get work for a while there, so I doubt she was saying no to an Indiana Jones film. It's interesting.
I don't know if she would say no to Indiana Jones film, but maybe working with Lucasfilm again. But I guess she's doing Star Wars again, so...
I was confused on her motivations for a while, and then they just really kept driving the money part, and I was like, okay, maybe that's just it. And I guess I liked her because she wasn't a defined role. She didn't fit a trope, and instead of having Indy and a love interest, they just had Indy and a woman who seemed capable, but she was also annoying, and they were both going the same way, but they were battling, and I kind of appreciated that dynamic because it was different.
It was a bit of a mix of all the other female leads in the series.
Yeah.
A little bit of Willie, a little bit of Marion, a little bit of she talks in her sleep. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything that else I want to get into that's not spoilery. I did not expect Antonio Banderas to be in this.
I did, because he was in the trailer, and I was disappointed that I knew that.
I avoided the trailer, so I think I saw the teaser trailer.
I mean, unless you shut your eyes in the theater, sometimes it's hard to avoid trailers, and he has a recognizable voice as well.
I've been lucky enough to not get this trailer in front of stuff. Like, seeing this today was the first time I saw the Oppenheimer trailer. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And it was also the first time I saw the Kraven the Hunter trailer. Which, oh boy, cannot wait to talk about that on here.
Yeah. We should have.
But, we can deep dive into that then. But, yeah, I'm really happy with this movie.
This is a non-spoiler question I can ask you.
Yes.
Do you feel like it was nostalgia heavy on indie nostalgia or timeline nostalgia at all?
I don't think so. It's sprinkled throughout, like him talking about drinking the blood and voodoo. Like, they sprinkle a little bit in there for you, and Sala showing up. Like, there's bits and pieces of things, but I don't think it was like spoon-fed to you. Like, if you know, you know. Like, a lot of the things that they talk about from the fourth film, if you can choose to accept that as canon, or you don't have to. Like, it's not specific enough that you have to watch that film before seeing this one. Yeah, I think it had the standards of what you would expect from Indiana Jones, and gave you a little bit of treats here and there about the other films.
I agree. I don't think, other than the literal opening shot where they hold on his face a bit just to be like, yes, Indiana Jones is back on the screen, I don't remember any points where the movie came to a screeching halt to zoom in on something to be like, haha, remember that? Or to, play something up and then focus on something from a previous film to be like, gotcha, wink, wink. I don't remember, unless I'm totally misremembering it, I don't remember any of that. I thought it was a very, it flowed very well. I was a little worried because I think this is like a 2-hour and 20-minute film, something like that. And I was a little worried that, oh gosh, it's another 2+ hour film, and how much is this gonna just be bloated so we could just extend the possible final indie film? I did not think it felt bloated when I watched it. I thought it was very smooth, well-paced film, and it ended and where it needed to end. So I thought it was a well-made movie that I really didn't know how high my hopes were for it. I think I just went in with I don't know if this is going to be good or not, and I don't really have high hopes for it, but I appreciated it when I came out of it.
I want to say that I hope this movie shows that Lucasfilm has learned their lesson when it comes to making movies and franchises that people love. Because Rise of Skywalker was so rushed because of circumstances beyond their control with Carrie Fisher. Mm-hmm. They had to change the screenplay completely and bring in a new director. And that's on them for doing that. Like, the way they handle that situation shows in the film. Like, it's rushed, it's sloppy, and it's just pure fan service. Like, hey, remember A-Wings? Here you go. Remember Wedge Antilles? Remember when Chewie didn't get a medal? It's very fan servicey. And I feel like they took their time with this and were able to, like, not rush it, like, build a strong story and not rely too much on fan service.
Sure. I mean, I know it's also Lucasfilm, but I just feel like these are in two different ballparks. As much as I want to be hopeful for the future of Star Wars, I feel like, they're always looking at Star Wars films in terms of trilogies and how do we do this, and whereas Indy was just the next Indy film. We have one almost like every decade. They're so spread out. They're part of the series, but they can be their own thing. And but I think the choices they made with this film were smart. I feel like, it just got a little too sci-fi in the last one, and I was worried that it was gonna get too sci-fi in this one based on the things that were kind of teased in the trailer. And I was like, did we not... I literally, the first time I saw the trailer was like, did we not learn our lesson from the last one? Because granted, we never called them aliens, but they were gray, bald-headed, interdimensional figures with a UFO, and that was one of the biggest things. People were just like, this is too sci-fi for Indy. Indy was always more mysticism and architecture, not really sci-fi. That was reserved for Steven Spielberg's other works. Yeah. So when I kind of guessed what the theme for this one was going to be, I was like, how much are we going to lean into that theme? And I'm glad that it wasn't so much that it took over the film like the last one did.
Yeah. On that note, I feel like we need to get into spoilers. So
I do too.
If you have not seen Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, this is your spoiler warning. We're going to get into the nitty gritty. So grab your hats and buckle up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think this film, I'll just say it. I think this film does a great job of handling time travel.
Yeah. I guessed where it was going to go. It didn't go there, and I was happy that was the case, because I was just like, I hate it when I guess and it turns out to be the thing, and then it's either up to my expectations or not. It didn't go in the direction where I went. It wasn't the entire second half of the movie. I was really worried it was going to be like an in-game type situation where Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Indy were going to be like going back and running from the boulder again and doing all of his greatest adventures. I was expecting a boulder scene. I don't know how that got in my head, but I would have bet you $1,000 last night that there was going to be a boulder scene somehow in this film, and there wasn't, and I'm kind of glad that that's not where it went.
Yeah, for me, there's always been an element of sci-fi in the Indiana Jones franchise, whether you want to call it sci-fi or fantasy, from Ark of the Covenant to even the Crystal Skull stuff. There's always been a supernatural
mysticism. Yeah. Used to be separate from hard sci-fi.
And I like that they don't really, like, the reason behind the time travel in this is physics. It's math related. Like, it's all...
Sure.
it's all based in that, like calculations from this device, not like this device opens a portal and lets you set the dial to wherever you want to go in space time. Like,
yeah.
And there's a twist at the end where the time travel only works to get you to that one point.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a fantastic twist, and I think that's part of the reason why I enjoyed the film so much.
I did too. I think that's why it worked versus being able to do what the villain wanted to do. I was like, is that really what we're doing? And I'm glad it didn't go that way. I think it added that level of, this is cool, but it's not necessarily something we control mysticism to it. Not, I now am a Time Lord,
Yeah. I also like that I find it humorous that the villain's goals as a Nazi were to go back and kill Hitler. Like, I was like, okay.
But he does have one of a good line, and it was something that I wish that I could write in one of my books, was the U.S. didn't win the war, Adolf lost it. And I liked that. I'm sure there are some Nazis that felt that way, that he eventually just got too big for himself and made it more about him than the movement, and that's why they lost. And I liked that motivation for the character. I was wondering if he was going to be a Nazi, or if he was just like, no, I'm just a guy that happened to be German and over there at that time. But no, he really was a villain, and he thought he could do a better job. So yeah. I like that. Can we talk about the beginning? Can we talk about the opening sequence?
Yeah. What did you think of young Harrison Ford returning to the big screen?
I thought for the most part it was good. Everything from the set design to the title font to everything felt old school Indiana Jones. I just loved seeing the Nazi banner in the back over some crumbling building, and I just thought it fit really well. There were times where they really did focus in on Harrison Ford's face so that you could just awe and gape at young Harrison Ford, and then there were other times the whole thing is shrouded in darkness, so I feel like that helps that sequence a lot, because there are other times you can't really see him, and it's probably for the best, because they can only make those close-ups look so good.
Yeah, I feel the same way. There's a lot of the things they have Harrison Ford do that are a little bit stunt heavy, where they need him to be that they put a bag over his head so you can't tell it's not him.
Sure.
But I thought the CG looked great. I love the opening of the film, because from reading stuff and hearing interviews, I knew that the film was probably going to open that way with a flashback, which I'm here for, because I think they did a good job with it. It felt like Indiana Jones. It looked like the Indiana Jones that we knew growing up. And I just really enjoyed that sequence. It was a lot longer than I expected it to be, but I'm okay with that.
Agreed. Yeah, but I did like it. Again, I like Nazis back in Indiana Jones. It just feels, it's that time period, and I liked it. I liked that they were there looking for something else, and then it turned out to be a fake, and both the villain and Indiana Jones realized it at the same time. I liked that. So it was kind of wasn't a misdirect. It was just they weren't there for the Dial of Destiny back then, and then this Dial of Destiny came up, and again, only the professors in the room realized how significant it was, and added to the mystery of it. I don't understand how Mads Mikkelsen survived being hit in the face by a water tower at the speed of a train. I don't understand that. And I was waiting for the answer, so at that point, and when we first get reintroduced to him in the present day, I thought that they were going to have some type of, they do go back in time, and that's actually him from the future, and that's why he's like denying that he's ever met you, Indy, and and you know, he didn't die back then because it's him in the future and he hasn't gone back yet. I was thinking there has to be a reason why he somehow survived getting hit by a water tower, but they don't really go into that. He just survived. So
yeah, I didn't really think about that. They really don't explain that, but they also,
because he hits it hard, man. Like,
yeah,
that's how almost every other person dies on a train scene. So, but
unless your name is Bucky.
Yeah. Well, he fell and he landed in snow.
and then the Nazis brought him back.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
great opening sequence. I really like the opening sequence.
Just looking at this poster that I have up for the show here, there are things on here that I didn't know about going in because I avoided the trailers, like the scuba diving. Did not know that was coming. I did like how they handled the eels as the snake stand-in for this.
Yeah, that was fun.
I did take a bag of gummy snakes into the theater with me tonight. So it's like, this seems appropriate for Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to talk about.
What did you think of the kid? There's we had a new, younger kid. You know, wasn't as young as Short Round was, I don't think, but it was still a kid involved.
Yeah, I enjoyed him, Teddy. It felt, I didn't know how long he was going to be in it at first because I didn't really see him as part of the marketing for this. Mm-hmm. But the more I saw him, I was like, okay, yeah, this is a throwback to Short Round, and I'm fine with that. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed him. I liked how he played into it at the end. As soon as they showed him pretending to fly the plane at the hotel, I was like, okay, he's going to fly a plane later.
That's what it was. I totally forgot about that because when they were like, go start up that plane, I was like, wait. I get that he's like a real life Aladdin and that, you know, he's a pickpocketing genius and he works well as her partner, but how the hell is he suddenly a pilot? I totally forgot about that scene. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Okay. All right, I forgive it a little more for that because I was like, whoa. You can pickpocket all day, but suddenly you know how to fly a plane? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But yes. Okay, I get that.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything else I want to say except for if this is the final John Williams score, I am happy with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought the score fit well. I thought it all just fit. I didn't think anything was so outlandish that it was just taking me out of the film. I liked the time period it was in. There were a couple CGI shots that I was like, more towards the beginning than the end. There was when in the flashback when he's running on top of the plane, I'm like, that doesn't look real. When it flashes to the future and he looks down at the parade, it looked like real bad 3D people that were walking on air for a bit there, and I didn't understand what I was looking at until it showed it again later, and it was like somebody holding a balloon prop, and I was like, okay, I guess that's what that is. But there were times that it just didn't look good. But for the most part, the CGI held up. I don't think it was as glaring or as much as other blockbusters we've seen and talked about recently. So good on them for at least nailing that, and it didn't feel like this film was rushed through production. I felt like it was a finished film, you know. Like,
yeah.
I didn't think, oh, they should have rendered everything a few more times.
Yeah, we're not going to see James Mangold go on social media and be like, it was an artistic choice.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any of that.
Yeah.
But let's talk about where they time traveled, because I did appreciate that it wasn't where the villain was expecting it to go. It wasn't where I was expecting it to go. How did you feel about where they ended up going, and how long they were there?
As soon as they showed the tomb and it had the birds with propellers, I was like, okay, they're probably going back further than they're intending to. I thought it was really interesting to see that time period, because you don't get to see that era much in mainstream Hollywood. Like, you see that in like HBO shows named Rome, but you don't get to see that from a historical point of view like that. And I thought it was really interesting to have it be, oh, well, he built this to get help because they're losing the war. I really, and I liked that they kept calling the plane dragons.
It made sense. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you think of it?
I mean, I should have guessed, in hindsight, I should have guessed that that's where they were going to go, because that was the history lesson that he was saying at the beginning of the movie, and he was talking about the inventions and scooping up ships from the water and reflecting the sun to attack people, and how, what kind of evidence do we really have that happened, and so I should have known that that's where they were going to go. But then when they went there, and at the time of the film that they went there, I was like, okay, this seems like it's going to be a short-lived thing, and not what I had predicted, that the whole time travel thing was going to be the whole second half of the film. You know, like it was just enough to be interesting, and then it was done, and I was like, okay, that felt good. I liked that Phoebe Waller-Bridger's character was slightly selfish in wanting to bring her back, but also realized that it did not make sense to leave Indiana Jones in the past, and that they could screw up the timeline and stuff like that. And, you know, you could say that Indy was wounded and tired and old and wasn't thinking straight, but I kind of liked their back and forth, that he wanted to stay and she knew that he couldn't and stuff like that.
Yeah, for me, since this is a part of Victims and Villains, which is a mental health thing, I think his desire to stay there, it plays with his mental health a bit. And I kind of wish the film had leaned into it a little bit more, because you get that one scene on the boat where he talks about his son dying in the war, but you don't get much else. And then he's like, I've got nothing else to go back for. Like, I want to stay here. Because he doesn't feel like he has anything else back home, back in the future to go back for. But he's so enthralled by what he's seeing and wants to explore it more. But she's completely right. Like they're supposed to be there in that moment, but him staying would have a huge effect on the future.
I did like how the inventor, I forgot what his name is, but
Archimedes.
One made it so that they could really only go back to that point in time, and almost like like him hoping that he would see a confirmation of his future, of his invention. You know, like if somebody in the future was brought back to this point, then yes, it works. And then I also liked that, you know, he wasn't afraid, he was more intrigued, and learning and everything. I liked that element a lot. I thought that was great. Speaking on the mental health part, though, I do feel like they hinted at it, but they could have gone more into it, because the way Indy talked about it, he almost painted, is it Rosalind? Is that what her name was? Or
Marion.
What's Marion? He almost painted like Marion's grief was too much, and she left him and couldn't be around him. But then when she's brought back at the end, she said, I heard you're back. And it wasn't back from the past or back from the future. It was you checked out, you know, your grief and your mental health checked yourself out, and I heard you're back, and now I'm here, you know. So I feel like they could have focused on him checking out a little more, and they hinted at it, but it could have been a little stronger. Yeah,
because you think about it from his point of view. He meets his son late in life, like he's already in college, so he gets maybe 10 years with him before he goes off to war. And then like I feel like that's an interesting story aspect they could have played with more, but at the same time I don't think seeing a super depressed Indiana Jones is what people want. I think they hint at it enough so you can kind of tell that there's more going on there than he lets on.
Yeah, but then at the same time, that also just is typical grumpy Harrison Ford behavior. So, you know, I wasn't, you know, zoning in on it as much as, oh, this is just Harrison Ford in later life. So of course they're going to make that Indiana Jones's later life as well. Just grumpy old man type stuff.
Yeah,
But,
and he's in a crash plane. So
yeah. I like that Toby Jones was a good guy in this
Yeah.
film involving Nazis. He wasn't a Nazi in this one, like he was in Winter Soldier. So that's good.
yeah. Antonio Banderas was good, even though brief.
Very brief.
I was
Very
like,
brief.
I think that's Antonio Banderas. Then he started talking more. I was like, yep, that's Puss in Boots.
Yeah. So, what did you think about that versus having John Rhys Davis more in this?
I'm fine
You
with
think
it.
That was a choice.
I think had they gone to Egypt, it would have made more sense. But being in the Mediterranean and having it mostly set around the Mediterranean Sea, I think it makes sense to have Antonio Banderas there. Because I feel like in the 90s at one point he may have been put on a list of people who can replace Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones.
Oh, I'm sure. He's always had that charisma, and he's been in similar roles. Yeah, I kind of felt sad when Indiana Jones told his friend to stay in New York. You know, like he was like, "I miss it, and that was like the voiceover for the trailer too. Is I miss the sands and I miss the seas and the adventure. And then he's like, "Nah, you need to stay home." And I'm like, "Oh, that's sad. That's sad. Let him come with you."
It's sad, but he never really went with him before.
Yeah,
I guess in Last Crusade a little bit, but
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I think overall is a good film. There was choices in the filming, like for example, they didn't show them escape back through the cloud. That would have just added on another 5 minutes to the film. That was probably just not necessary. You know, we didn't need to see that. I was kind of surprised we didn't see it because it was like pop. You know, she punches him and pop, we're back. But that's fine. We don't need to see them come back. You know,
and them going back in time didn't change anything. Like Marion's not played by George Clooney or anything. So
yeah, I didn't have any big bombastic Flashpoint stuff. Although they'd already known that somebody had gone back in time when they found the propellers and when they found the watch in the tomb and stuff.
Part of me wondered if it was going to be a paradox where they take the dial back and give it to him, and then you never know where. It's a grandfather paradox. You never know where the dial came from. Like if they had it and took it back in the past, and then he broke it and put it on that ship, then it doesn't have an actual origin, which I thought would have been interesting. But I'm kind of glad they didn't go that route. I
am too, because I thought of that as well, and I was like, oh, that's gonna get convoluted as hell. And then they didn't do that, and then I was like, okay, the body has the watch on it, so is it really him, or is it Harrison Ford, or is it the villain, or are they gonna run into the inventor in modern times somehow? And I was just thinking I was going over on all these possibilities and how just convoluted and stupid it would be. And I thought the idea of time travel was stupid enough. So just the fact that they kept it to this, it was very limited. It was very non-invasive, even though they brought a plane to BC times. They crashed it. All the people couldn't register what it was instead of the other than the inventor, and the inventor wasn't gonna teach the armies what this was. So it was very invasive. It was very short and brief, and it was a dream come true for a professor, not for an action writer. Indiana Jones teaming up with his younger self to fight the Nazis or some stupid shit like that.
Yeah, it's like if I went back in time and was on the set of Raiders of the Lost Ark, I'd want to stay there, but yeah.
I was certain when the first trailer came out, and then I heard about the de-aging sequence, I was certain that we were gonna get an old Harrison Ford hiding around the corner as to not be spotted by young Harrison Ford and do that stuff that we've seen in every single movie since Back to the Future, and they didn't go down that route. And I think they should be commended for that, because that is not your typical time travel. That is a huge trope in time travel movies. And it's fun at times, but it's been, especially in Disney movies lately, it's been so overdone. We just don't need to see it again, and they chose not to do that here.
Yeah, I think especially since we just had The Flash in theaters briefly, it was refreshing to have a different take on time travel. Because I love me a good time travel story. So,
yeah,
I got nothing else.
I hope this does well.
I hope it does too.
I think it's not as divisive as Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is.
I would hope not.
I would hope not. I feel like someone's gonna go online and be like, they time travel in Indiana Jones film, and that might turn some people off. But I feel like if you watch the movie, the longer the movie went on, the more it focused on the artifact and finding the other half and going through all this adventure. I was like, this feels like an Indiana Jones film, and I like it.
Yeah, and I think there's so much allusion to time in this. Like, it opens with the sound of clocks. He's given a clock when he retires as his gift. Like, there's so much relying on time. Like, hey, give me back my watch. That was my dad's watch. Like, time is such a big part of this movie, and it's so woven into the fabric of this story that when you get to that part where they travel back 2,000 years, it works. Like, it doesn't feel jarring.
And it wasn't disrespectful. Like, one of the scenes I didn't care for Phoebe's character was the scene where she was just calling him an old man. Like, I thought you wanted to go out with a bang and one last adventure, and I was like, are you trying to tell me that he dies at the end of this film? Because I don't want to see that. You know, yeah. I really don't want to see that. And I think a lot of people predicted it when they brought Mangold on. They're like, he's gonna Logan Indy. He's gonna die at the end of the film. And
I'm glad he didn't, because they would bring back Indy and Deadpool 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah.
I've got nothing else to say except go see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Yes, highlight of my day.
Even though they never say Dial of Destiny in the movie, which I'm fine with.
They don't, do they?
No,
they don't.
They also never say Temple of Doom. Do they?
No.
Yeah. I mean, it works. It's alliteration, so I'm fine with it.
I still don't think it's a great title. I never thought it was a great title, but I thought it was a great artifact. I was intrigued by the artifact.
I think a better title would have been Indiana Jones in the Tomb of the inventor guy. Yeah. Archimedes.
Sure, that would have worked. I did like when they started with the spear, or the spearhead that killed Christ. I was like, is this Constantine? They're not going down the Constantine, because that was literally like the Constantine plot, and I'm like, don't do that. And then it was a throwaway, and I'm like, all right, good.
Yeah,
we don't need. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Quick programming note for our next episode. Usually Brilliant But Lazy is a bi-weekly show, but we are going to be changing things up for our next episode in July. Hard to believe it's July already, but we will be teaming up with my show, You Have to Watch This Podcast, and doing a crossover episode, double feature with Oppenheimer and Barbie. Josh, I haven't asked you this yet. Which film do you want to cover on Brilliant But Lazy? Oppenheimer or Barbie?
Oh. Because I do want to see both of them.
Yes.
I don't know that I want to see both of them equally, but I am excited for both of them. I think we should cover the Nolan film.
Okay. So
are you fine with that?
Yeah, on this show we will be talking about Oppenheimer, and then we'll be joined by my co-host on You Have to Watch This, Devin Struthers. He'll be joining us for that conversation. And then we'll be having another conversation on our show talking about Barbie, because that is the double feature that I am looking forward to this summer.
Oh, I wish I could see it as a double feature on the same day. I feel like that would be exhausting.
Yeah.
Because Oppenheimer is a super long film, but I'm going to see it in the same weekend for sure.
I think we're doing the same day. We might just do the weekend,
Goodness.
but opening weekend. I told my wife at dinner tonight, I was like, I want those films to tie at the box office because I think that would just be funny. Because we'll talk about the reasons why they're coming out the same day next time from my new setup, hopefully.
And we should talk about Craven then. I feel like we should be talking about Craven in this episode, but I'd like to get Devin's thoughts on it too. We can talk about the trailer.
Yeah, or we can do a trailer episode for the 2 weeks in if we want, and then just do the Barbie Oppenheimer.
Sure. I feel like there's some things we should talk about in that trailer.
Yeah. So, until next time, make sure to follow Victims and Villains on Facebook and Instagram, and visit victimsandvillains.net.
Go see Indy 5. Support this film. I feel like it earned its spot in the summer movie lineup for sure.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have this poster coming. It might be here now. It's supposed to be here today by 9:00. So we'll see. Until next time, for Brilliant but Lazy, I'm Alan.
I am Josh. Thanks for joining us.
And we will see you next time.